Hello and welcome to episode 58 of the Good Guy podcast. This is a Friday episode. This will come out Friday, the first Friday in June, whatever that is. Um, Before we get into the podcast and the introductions, thank you for jumping on board. If you're new to the Good Guy podcast, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on YouTube if you're watching. Hello, good to see you. Get subscribed on Spotify, on iTunes, on YouTube, whatever you want. There's loads of great stand-up clips on my YouTube. There's loads of great past episodes of the podcast with guests and by myself on Spotify and iTunes and SoundCloud. If you're there, I'm aware I neglect the SoundCloud people, and I am aware that you do exist. You have value in my heart. And follow me on Instagram at Vittorio Angelone and Twitter at that Vittorio and all those things. I'm working on isolating my Twitter and Instagram handles to just at Vittorio, because I know both of those are being taken but not being used by the people that have them. So I want to colonize them. And if you're a regular listener of the podcast and are gaining things from this podcast and think that I provide value to your life, maybe you would like to provide some value to my life by number one, sharing it with your friends. That would be fantastic. Number two, reviewing it. 5 stars, little tappity tap, little review for me. Give me a bit of dopamine to kickstart my day. I really appreciate when people review the podcast and just drop a comment on the YouTube, be like, yo, this was cool. Do whatever. And then the other thing you can do is support me on Patreon, as I have lost pretty much half of my earning capabilities over the course of this lockdown. So I am putting out a whole fuckload of content, 4 podcasts a week, a stand-up clip, the Sunday roast, all sorts of things. So if you want to support me for as little as £1 a month, which I call 2 pints a year, even though I don't drink at the minute. Don't judge me for that if you're new. I've got my reasons. So on patreon.com/Vittorio Angelone, VITTORIOANGELONE. No matter where you're consuming this, my name will be somewhere on it. My guest this Friday is Akin Omobitan, who is a comedian. You'll hear a lot about him. He's got a podcast called Squeezing the Orange. You should check it out. Yeah, he's a comedian. He's a good friend of mine, and I think this episode is one of the best episodes I've ever done in terms of Akin being a man who's open to being spoken to recklessly and unabashedly and openly and incorrectly. He will allow you to say something that he doesn't believe to be correct, and he will say things that he will be happy to be corrected on. And I think that allowed for a really interesting conversation on a whole wealth of things, from class to politics to race to the current goings on with George Floyd and everything. As well as the Patreon, I would urge you to donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund and donate to the George Floyd Family Fund, or any of the funds for posting bail for protesters in America. I'm sure it just makes a massive difference. If you want to turn your quiet anti-racism into active anti-racism that will actually make a difference, chuck some money their way. It only has to be £1, man. It will make a huge difference. Same thing as the Patreon. Chuck some money their way. It'll make a huge difference. I'm really proud of this episode. I know it's long. But I think that you should stick with it, and I think you'll really enjoy the episode. And I'll see you on the other side. And ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Akin Omobitan. Record to this computer. Lovely. Well, that should all be working. Welcome to, oh fuck, I'm gonna fuck up your name now, but everyone fucks up my name, so it's okay. Akin Omobitan.
That was close, man. Like, so the Bitan.
Omobitan.
Yeah, there you go.
Ah, fuck. Well, that was close.
Yeah,
I'll take it. That's
I'm
closer
I'm
than.
I'm
What's the
easy with my
worst?
name anyway.
What's the worst any MC has ever got at bringing you on the stage?
Oh man, it's like, yo, welcome to the stage, Blackie McBlack. I was like, hey man, you ain't even trying. Like,
Welcome to the stage, Raymond Green.
I'm super easy about my name. So like, it's like my first name and surname, they're both Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria, but I was raised here in the UK. I came here when I was like 2 years old.
Whereabouts
So
did you grow up?
whereabouts? In Hackney. So I grew up in East London. I've
Okay.
lived in East London pretty much my entire life. And so when I actually hang out with Nigerians, they correct me continuously on the pronunciation of my name. So when
That's
like,
me and Italians.
there you go, man. So if
I mean,
like
I'm
John
there like
Smith from
Vittorio Angelone, and they're like, God, you're butchering our language.
right, it's not my fault, man. I grew up on mash and gravy, like
This is the thing,
and it's delicious.
Shit.
Hey, people need to stop shredding British cuisine. I've had enough of it, man. People making me defend the Brits, man. Like, I'm telling you, man, there's the Sunday roast, shepherd's pie, bangers and mash, like
Fish and chips. It's
fish
like,
and chips.
it's good when you want it, but then there's some stuff I'm like, like, no offense. I was staying with my girlfriend for like a couple of weeks at the start of lockdown,
Okay.
and there was a couple meals we had.
Wait,
where I
for
put
the
it in my
start of
mouth.
lockdown, after what? How long before you're like, you know what? I'm gonna ride this pandemic out alone. I'll text you.
So it was with her parents. So I just felt like I was
Okay.
imposing. So I was there for a couple of weeks, and then when flights started to really get cancelled, I was like, okay, I'm getting the fucking ferry back to Belfast, and I'm staying there for the foreseeable, which is where I am now.
Oh shit, cool, man.
But there was a couple meals we had where I like had the first forkful, and I was just like, hey, this doesn't taste of anything. Like it doesn't.
It tastes like the color
the
gray.
Salt. It's only gonna taste of salt, but past the salt.
Oh man, so like you mentioned, like when the flights started getting cancelled, when did you realize that shit was getting real?
So
Like regarding like, because like I heard on some platforms you can't even say the C word without like, but basically this whole coronavirus pandemic shit. At what point were you a bit like, oh shit?
well, it was quite. I just the whole process was quite funny of everyone being like fucking China, and then
right.
Look at them fucking Italians all fucking falling over each other.
Hey, that was me. I like just before this shit, right? Just before this shit kicked off, I was doing some like some open mic comedy, and I was working on some shit, right? And I was criticizing the British government's approach to dealing with this. And so the joke was along the lines of like, hey man, the British government's advice during this like, pandemic thing is for us to like wash our hands. Who doesn't know to be washing their hands anyway? And I was like, Italians? Like,
Did we do the same last gig?
It might have been, man.
Sunday
in
at South Ken.
Yeah, that was yeah.
And I had the opposite joke. So I was like, you went on before me, and then I went on. I was like, yeah, people keep telling me to wash my hands after I go for a piss, but my dick doesn't have coronavirus.
There
so
you
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh dear. But like, so yeah, so when did you were saying like with like us laughing at like China and stuff.
I work in schools a lot during the day.
Okay.
And that is the one thing I won't massively talk about on my podcast because I might get sacked. But when I noticed that it was all gonna go mad was when I was in classrooms and like teaching assistants or IT people that worked in the schools would come in and be like, what are you planning on doing to work from home, to like the teacher in the school, and be like, what's your plan and does it sustain you until September? And this was in March, and I was like, right. September. Okay.
What's a teacher's plan? Like, am I supposed to bring like 30 kids home? Like,
no,
what? It's like I can't take my work home with me. They've got like laws against that.
Their computers are tapped into like obviously the intranet, so they like had to take school computers home so they could still access all the internal whatever. So they did that in like March, and they were like, yeah, we're all set up to at least be able to mark things and set things and be tapped into whatever calendars we need to be tapped into. Whereas I brought 4 t-shirts. Man, I felt so bad because I'm like, you're only supposed to shop for essential items, but I only have 3 football shirts and a t-shirt, so I had to go buy a bunch of clothes.
Wait, 3 football shirts? Which teams? Are they all the same team?
So it's 2 Celtic shirts and
Okay.
a
And
Republic
a
of
Rangers
Ireland
one, yeah.
shirt. No.
And a Rangers one that I wipe my fucking ass with.
although very excitingly, I'm working on a sketch, and I've had to
Ooh.
buy a big, massive Union Jack for the sketch,
Ooh.
which is which is exciting. In my house, my dad was like, "What the fuck's that?"
Not in my ass. I don't even know what your dad sounds like. I do the worst act. I don't even. The thing is, when I do accents, I don't care where the person's from. I'm like, listen, yeah, I'm doing the jokes, yeah. So here's the accent you're given, and I can do like three. I could do generic America. Do you know how many different accents America has? And people like, I just do generic America.
Yeah.
I do like proper British, and then I do one which like kind of sounds a bit like Caribbean, West Indian, but also sounds a bit Indian, and like,
Yeah.
and that's it, man. That's it. I watched a lot of
true.
movies growing up. That's kind of like.
I was trying to write a bit about like the fact that an accent isn't racist until you say where it's from.
Ooh, tell me more.
So if I go like, hello, you know what I'm doing.
Right?
But until I say that that's a Welsh accent, because until I say you're the racist one, do you know what I mean?
Hey, for real?
I am doing a generic, silly voice, and your brain is telling you what that is.
I'm confused as to why are accents racist? This is the kind of shit I ask people, right? And I've not been convinced by any of the. I don't get why an accent is racist.
Maybe if it's like a deliberate caricaturing of the person or the culture. Because I'm sure in old movies there was a lot of racist Chinese accents knocking about.
Oh yeah, totally.
So,
but it's just the doing of the accent. Like if I'm telling a story, and in that story, the other individual is Japanese, and I'm trying to bring the story to life. So like, why can't I just be a bit like, Akin, I don't even know what Japanese. See, this is what I'm saying. I can't do accents. I'm just gonna have to give him an American one.
That's not super far away. I went to music college. There was a lot of like East Asian people there. There's like a lot of Japanese people, a lot of Korean people, a lot of Chinese people, and it's like, man, some people whose English isn't their first language, their accents are a bit fucking funny for a while.
Right? Like,
and some people find my accent funny, and that's
right.
Fine. It's not like I don't love it, but I'm aware that I talk differently.
Because this is what I've realized. Everything that comedians do, right? Everything that comedians do, everyone else is allowed to do. So like, and you know what? Let me take comedians out of it. Anything that someone does attempting to be funny, you remove that and you put that into a different context, it's totally fine. And so like, if you have an actor on stage, they're allowed to do a Japanese accent.
Yeah.
Because like people in their brains, they're like, oh, well, I'm watching acting and I know this person might not really be Japanese, but they're allowed to do all of that shit. But if I'm telling a joke, I'm not allowed to do like, it's like, yo, you shitting on me. Like you're now you're crushing my range, man. I'm trying to show you my range.
That there are parts of jokes that aren't the funny parts.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like the accent isn't the butt of that joke. It's just part of the joke, and it's not necessarily the funny part of the joke. The only other example that I talk about a bit is when Tyler, the Creator, was banned from the UK.
Oh, I never knew this.
So it was essentially when the UK was doing quite a lot of fucked up things to refugees, they decided to. I have a funny.
You can't kick an old habit, can you? Like it's just like, like, look, man.
I have a funny. This is one of my only big conspiracy theories is see anytime they bring out a new banknote,
Okay.
Just go a few pages deeper on Google to see what the actual news is that they're trying to cover up. Because
Mm.
why the fuck would they bring out a new banknote? There's no point in it. It's just used to wash away all the other news. And it's like, oh my God, this new banknote is made out of animals. Oh, shit.
Yo, people get angry. Like look, man. Okay, I'm so fed up with the shit people get angry about. Like I am. Listen, yeah, listen, right? It don't matter who's on the note, man. Like people getting real angry about you getting angry. This the same people that get angry about some historical figure on a note are the same people that will be denouncing capitalism. Look, you either love money, right? Either love money, right? Or hate the money, man. But you guys got you guys got to save your anger, man. Save your anger for some shit that matters.
Here's that argument gets very sticky. Is when
Go for it.
Why do you care about the wage gap if money's not important?
Hey. Right? Right?
There's an obvious answer of like you can't exist within a capitalist society and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And agree, whatever. But it's just funny. It's like the entire value of a person within the feminist movement, which has been a profoundly left-wing and positive movement, but it's been profoundly left-wing and comes from the same place as a lot of viewpoints of valuing people for who they are and art and various other things. And like, other than just like, if you make more, you're a more valuable person. It's like, if you think that's true, then there's an imbalance in society where bankers are valued higher than artists or fucking bin men or whatever,
Yep.
doctors. So it's like, that never gets brought into the wage gap conversation. Like, you're saying that these people are more valuable in society, and therefore you're raising a whole other point that isn't getting spoken about, that the value within society that we live in is entirely monetary within your head right now.
And this is one of my big issues, right? You know what? It's not even my big issue, because you know what? If everyone wants to cry about every bunch of things, let them cry. But I kind of feel like this whole push of trying to kind of put a monetary value on women, in the sense of like, I get what they're. It's like I get what they're fighting for. However, I feel like in fighting for one thing, you're kind of reducing the quality of another. And there are so many valuable things that women add to society that men cannot add to society or are not as good at. And I kind of feel like you kind of want to play to your strengths. And when you play to your strengths, other things follow that.
And it's about people across the board being allowed to break the norm. So
Yep.
the norm can be generally people statistically playing to their strengths, and you have to be allowed to have outliers. And that's what kind of true freedom is that there will be norms and there will be patterns, same way that 99% of bin men are men. That's why no one calls them bin officers.
Hey, why? You know what? That's such a great point, yeah. Because listen, yeah, I want to see, yo, the women who were kicking off about the equality in bin men jobs. I'm not hearing it. I'm just saying, I'm not hearing them being a bit like, yo, why aren't 50% of bin people women? Like, they'll complain about chairman, but they don't unless I'm not hearing it, no one's complaining about bin man.
Like, we've chosen.
You ever seen a bin woman?
I've never seen a bin woman. Except I was trying to think of a woman that I didn't like. Or like a bin woman. Who's a woman that I don't like? God,
I can't think of a single woman. You know what? I can't think of one, because women, I hold them up to. I think women are better than men. I think women are the best.
Everyone's better than me.
For me to think of a woman that it's just not. How could there be a woman? Because like they're in. You know what? I'm on some like basically, right, before I just be a dick for the sake of being a dick, I feel it's real basic, right? The only way to kind of really know someone's worth is to get to know them. And you have to value the individual's output or contribution. When you start throwing gender into it, when you start throwing race into it, when you start throwing in a whole bunch of things, when the output itself should be able to speak for you. And for me, that's the kind of equality that I want to see. I want to see the kind of equality where if people are producing something to a certain level, let's recognize the output and let's not focus so much on the person behind it. Like,
there's a discussion to be had between the movements working towards representation at the very highest level and those same movements not addressing that those changes need to be made at grassroots. So the example that I've been involved in is like music college, because that's where I went, and I was on the students union there for a while. So I sat on a lot of meetings where the higher ups at the school were saying we need more representation in this topic, this instrument, this course, this whatever. And I just think when you place a quota system into the highest level of something, then you inherently have to lower the bar. If the access at grassroots level, the access to classical music tuition for and also the interest in classical music tuition within Black and minority ethnic communities in the UK is low access and interest, because classical music is, number one, boring, and number two, not particularly a part of Black and minority ethnic culture.
Hey man, look, I'm gonna jump in right here because I'm nodding aggressively with what you're saying right now. I'm nodding so aggressively right now. Look, like the people at the top, if you're vying for a CEO position, or you're trying to be on the chair, for some of you, you're gonna have to fight that with a little less help from the rest of us, because you've got the education, you've got the experience. I'm not saying I'm not behind you. I'm totally behind you, but I feel like we need to, and I'm going to sound like an old man now, but we need to focus on the kids. Yeah. Like, why are we focusing on these like 30 and 40-year-olds who've had 30 and 40 years to kind of like, kind of like crack this shit?
And also,
like, we've got to spread our interest, but like, if we can help the kids out today, then in the future, we're going to have fewer of these problems, because we're going to be educating people to a point, and we're going to be equipping them to the point where they can now, it's not going to be the wrestle for them. This is why my life is easier today, because of what some motherfucker did yesterday. Like that's what's made my life easier. So us today, we need to make life easier for generations that are coming. And then, man, there was like a second point, but I'll let you kind of like jump back in, and then I'll interrupt you rudely.
There's this thing where equality of opportunity takes a long time to be visible at the very highest level. So if you look at these higher up kind of CEO type roles, and these roles that are normally inhabited by people who are very highly educated, if you look 30 years, they're inhabited by people who are highly educated and old as fuck, so 50s and 60s.
Yep.
So if you look, those people were educated 30, 40 years ago. That's when they would have went to university. And if you look 30, 40 years ago, female attendance at universities really wasn't that high, because of sexism and because of kind of traditional gender roles were more kind of stringent in those days. So not a lot of women were getting access to an education, or even being told that that was a possibility for them. So they've ended up on this different path that doesn't lead them to the opportunity of being a CEO. Whereas now, I think it's more women go to university than men in the UK anyway. So you will see those dividends in 20, 30, 40
Precisely.
years time.
And we're starting to see it
right
now. Yeah. And I wanted to jump on the second point. I remembered it now. You're talking about classical music. Look, this is my self-righteous shit. So people don't really need to agree. We need to stop giving this prestige to some shit that most people aren't interested in.
Yeah.
Like, go look at the
I have a
charts.
fucking
Like,
degree in it.
there you go. And I'm not saying that there's not a value to it. I'm not saying that it's not like, you know, of a high standard or quality. But what classical music tunes are breaking the tracks? Who's the modern day classic music stars? What we're doing, right, is we're allowing a small like percentage of the population and their taste and their interest. We're allowing that to dictate to the others what the bar is. Like
You know what it is?
we should be saying, okay, what are people interested in? That's what we should be valuing in.
And
And the
there's a
people who are,
balance between what is, because there's some art that is lowest common denominator and is not good art.
stand-up
Like,
comedy.
not all stand up.
I'm playing. I'm totally
But
goofing around.
we all
Yeah.
know comedians who just play to fucking the lowest common denominator, the easiest joke.
Yeah.
And it's not objectively or as artistically valuable as some other comedians who maybe aren't as widely popular. So popularity isn't necessarily a marker of value.
Agreed.
But what it is that historically classical music has been put on this pedestal, and it still
Yep.
is. If you look at the fact that it fucking sickens me that within classical music the entire orchestra are in tuxedos. Like, what is happening? What? Who the fuck are you?
They've all
And
got
half of
dates
them are
after.
drunk, man. Half of them are drunk. As someone who comes from that world, they're all fucking piss heads.
Yeah, like, because I don't even want to. It's like I'm not knocking classical music. I think it's dope shit. I think classical music is dope shit. But I would say this kind of like with the fullest confidence. You can put the best classical music piece up against the best jazz piece, which you can put up against the best hip hop piece, which you can put up against the best pop piece. So in all of these different kind of like genres of music, like country music, there's like loads. There's trap music, there's friggin' K-pop. But you bring the best, like, and you put them up against each other. The people who appreciate that shit, like people who love pop music, they know the difference between a good pop track and a bad pop track. You can't just put out a pop track and it's just like that's just pop music. No,
Yeah,
there are pop stars who have like they really own their craft in terms of it might not be my shit, but that's their shit. So it's like I don't see why we need to now say someone who's making pop. Why are we now comparing them to someone who plays violin? They're in different lanes. So like you get what I'm saying though, right? Like we're discrediting a whole bunch of music forms because it's not classical music. And it's like we discredit a whole bunch of like cinema forms because they're not like art house. We discredit like a whole bunch of shit because they're not who has said that like one piece is the best? Like that shit's subjective.
there's a weird thing that happens within classical music as well, where stuff that's more difficult to perform gets put on this. People say, "Oh, but like it's difficult to perform," and I'm like, that does not mean it's good.
Yep.
Like Tiddlywinks is hard, but they're not selling out stadiums for it. Do you know what I mean? It's not like exciting and it's not good. It's hard to be really fucking good at Tiddlywinks. It's really fucking hard to be really fucking good at an instrument. And a lot of that music is really fucking hard to play. And a lot of it's designed to show off the virtuoso player, like concertos or specifically that. Yo, somebody shit hot's going to play this and they're going to be at the front of the stage and they're going to do this. But then you look at something like Bob Dylan or Bob Marley, neither of whom are tremendously technical singers.
There we go.
But the art shines through and the emotion of the art shines through. And that's that's the dilemma where there's two sides to it. Number one, the popularity doesn't define how good it is, and difficulty doesn't define how good it is either. Yeah. And I think those are the two metrics that people use most of the time.
And I think the big metric, or one of the big metrics for myself, I'd say, is its connection. Like, what are people connecting to? Like, we're people. Like, so if only like 1% of people are connecting to some shit, that's great for that 1% of people. Like nothing's supposed to be for, not everyone's supposed to like classical music.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, they're like, they want some words, like say some shit, man. Like, you know, make my heart feel a certain way. Like get me hyped, man. Like I listen to like, if I've got some like some Rick Ross on, it's like, yo, man, like get me hyped. If I've got like some Chili Peppers on, I'm like, yo, man, I wanna connect with something.
Yeah.
And then in another moment, I might, you know, like pop on like some jazz, like that Krungbing band. I can never pronounce their name properly, but like their shit just like sends me to this nice, cool, funky kind of like jive where I'm a bit like, yes. And so it's different things for like different times, but like there's shit that classical music can't do. Like you ain't gonna like get your headphones on and put that shit up to like 11 and freaking get a nice fucking head nod going to some
Yeah.
fucking, you'll do something else to it. Like it's a different art form. So yeah, man, I just don't really feel like is, you know, we put it up on this pedestal, but who's even this we? Like,
Yeah. And the what I was gonna say as well is it's put up on this pedestal and it maintains on the pedestal because it's on the pedestal. It's like, God, I hated the feeling of being in an orchestra performing to an audience of people who are just there to network with the people that they've invited along to try and
what did you play in the orchestra?
percussion.
Hey.
So I just at the back hitting stuff basically. Um, so yeah, you've got all these fucking accountants trying to close these deals in the interval of classical music concerts. And do you know what the other problem is? There are tremendous, and there's a there's a dilemma where classical music technically only really exists between 1700 and 1800. So there's periods. So it's like Baroque is 1600, 1700, classical is 1700, 1800. I'm going to get this so wrong. I have so many classical music dorks that listen to this that they're going to be so roughly centuries wise. Romantics
they're
1800,
crashing their
1900.
cymbals right now in frustration.
Yeah, bizarre moderns 1900 to the 21st century, and then there's kind of contemporary. It's kind of lost any kind of boundary of whatever. But there's tremendous, and so the word that people use for it more officially is Western art music.
Okay.
And there's fantastic Western art music composers. Anna Meredith is fucking class. She's got an album out recently, but she plays with a band. But the band is a tuba, a percussionist, a cello, a guitar, clarinet, and glockenspiels, like all sorts of mad stuff. So it's like it exists within the canon of classical music, but a lot of it's electronic and loud, and you dance to it, and it's done in venues where they serve booze and everyone's standing up.
Yeah, so it's like neoclassical, you could say.
So it's like this fucking. What are the boundaries? Like
there shouldn't be any.
What makes classical music classic? Where's the line of where it stops being classical music all of a sudden and it's now dance music or pop music?
I think a break beat, like yeah, you get like a break beat in there.
But it's like what the like, I don't know, and I think people just need to. The pedestal is the real problem, and fuck, I just hate people that go to classical music because it seems simple, where they're like, oh yes, I'll bring this client to this concert because it'll make us seem high end.
Hey, if I'm ever anyone's client, like, look, man, get me some tickets to go see Tame Impala or like Jungle, Future Islands. I'm not trying to hear like some dude with a fiddle, man. Like, if you really want to close this deal? you really want to close this deal? Like, we got to hit the jazz cafe up, man, and get sweaty on the dance floor. That's kind of how that's kind of like how I vibe with it, man. Like, I didn't realize I was so. I had so much opinions and thoughts on on classical music, but like it's dope shit, but it's not the dopest shit, man. There's loads of other dope shit. Yeah,
I mean, it's just like everything serves a purpose, and some of it's fucking wank. Some of classical music is so fucking bad, and people refuse to acknowledge it. I'm allowed to not fucking like Mahler. I think it's too long. But people are like, how can you not like Mahler's Second Symphony? It's one of the most brilliant pieces of. It's too long, okay? It's just too long, and that's it. I don't want it to be that long. Nothing needs to be that long. And I don't know. I could talk. I could. I want to do a whole show about classical music at some point. How fucking dumb it is that everyone thinks it's so amazing, and half the people on stage are fucking drunk.
Yeah, I guess it's like a status thing, and we have several things like that in society where the like there's things that become symbols of things. So it's not that the actual thing itself. It's like Apple's earphones. I think they're trash. Like the ones that you get in the box. I'm not really sure. I've never tried the AirPods, but
I
the
just got
actual
a pair for my
Apple.
birthday.
Yeah. What do you think of them?
So Apple shaped ones are pretty much the only ones that stay in my ears. Whatever's going on with
Yeah, like
my ears.
the box standard ones just won't stay in my. They won't stay in
So
my ears.
they're the only ones that do stay in my ears.
Oh, they
Any
don't
other
stay in mine.
headphones just don't fit in. So
Ah,
AirPods is good for me. We got a basketball net recently for lockdown, and
okay.
I would just put them in, leave my phone just inside the house so it was still connected, and then I would just like listen to a podcast or an album and just like play basketball, and it was so
Oh
good.
shit.
They weren't falling out of my fucking
No,
head.
well,
But if
okay,
I want to
so
listen
okay,
to
you know
something
what? That's so
properly, like
maybe they're pretty dope, right? all right, all right. But that said, they have become more of a symbol.
mm,
Like, you know, like Apple were great at the way that they marketed them shits, because it's like it was a way of showing off that you had an iPhone without getting your phone out.
yeah,
And it's something that was easily recognizable, similar with like, you know, Beats headphones.
mm,
Like, so you get to a point where it's not really about what the best is, it's about what is this saying about me? Like, what am I communicating to other people? And this is like why, as consumers, we're kind of suckers, man, because we're not demanding the best. We're trying to be cool. We're trying to be like
yeah.
someone else. We're trying to show that, hey, we're part of something. Whereas if our demand for our products was, yo, go and make the best thing, and then I'll buy the best thing, then companies would be encouraged to make their things better.
But
But
it's
the only reason,
impossible to be like. Not everyone is gonna have a trained enough ear to tell you what the best headphones are. They might be able
oh,
to tell
yeah,
a small difference, but a lot of that's in your head as well. And like people
pun
always pick up
intended.
beats and go, "I feel the weight of them." They have fucking weights inside them. That's literally they put weights inside Beats headphones to make you do that. It's so
Yeah,
fucking
because it
dumb.
feels like it's more quality, right?
Yeah,
Like if you pick up like a gadget, and you know, and it's got that weight to it, you're like, oh,
got a
that's what
good quality.
quality
Yeah,
feels like. Oh, check out the weight of my what? Put the buckets on my head and press play on something, and then I'll
yeah,
tell you if I think they're dope or not. Like,
yeah.
how
And
comfortable are they?
I think that the real kind of and maybe that's why the best stuff costs so much because so few people seek it out. If more
Yeah.
people sought out the actual quality headphones, then they wouldn't have to have such a high profit margin on them. So they could
Mm.
like because they were shifting more units. How interesting. But then there's this fucking bizarre thing where if you see a pair of headphones that are 50 quid, you're like, they're not gonna be that good.
They can't be. like
So mad, isn't it?
what, like, because like the pair I'm wearing right now, like, so I'm wearing a Sony pair that I paid about like 30 quid for, and
Mhm.
the sound quality on these things, Sony just like they're about the sound. Like Sony, Sennheiser, Bose, like there's a bunch of these brands that are a bit like, let's make some shit that sounds good. So I just use these as like a knockabout pair. But I've got a pair of Marshall headphones that are like, you know, this nice kind of like comfy Bluetooth ones I wear when I'm out and about, when I really want to listen to like some music and have the comfort. And I can, you know, like there's a quality difference there. But
Yeah.
like it depends on what you're trying to do. If you like people who are, I know they call them like audiophiles, but like if you're really trying to listen to some music, like for some people it's like they want to hear that richness and that
Mhm.
kind of like precision, and there's others they're more like, you know, about the bass, they want it to freaking like knock. And so all of that is on, it's on an individual level. So as individuals, I guess, you know, it's partly on us to kind of know ourselves and be like, what do I want this product for, and
Yeah.
then go and get the best thing for yourself. But like, if you're not really that bothered, then yeah, buy some cool shit, I suppose. If
Fine.
that's what you want,
Whatever.
there's plenty. If you're not that fussy, there's gonna be a lot of options within your price range.
Yeah, and it spans everything. You can get the fucking shittest headphones and you can get the fucking best headphones and it doesn't I'll just look directly at this the light in my room and I can't see it. Um, but it's fucking mad. Should we talk about the fact that the world is collapsing?
Yo, man, like, yeah, let's get, because I get regularly hit with these waves of, oh shit, like I'm not dreaming. Like,
Yeah.
wait, has this really been going on for like 2 or 3 months now.
Fucking crazy, isn't it?
Like I was out walking today, and I'm like, wait, real still? Like,
Yeah.
wait, what is
Yeah.
going on? Man, this shit is it's a bit fun, man. Like,
It's wild.
this is the weirdest shit I have ever lived through, man. Like, I just have to like, look, man. Part of me is just like, this is fun. Like, I'm
There's
actually
a
feeling something in life again. Like, I'm feeling alive, man. Like this, I'm having a very real, visceral life experience right
yeah.
now because shit matters. Your decisions matter. I'm not on this kind of like clockwork routine of Monday to Friday weekends. Like, I've got to really think about, like, what are my decisions? Like, what's the impact? Like,
hmm
really feeling alive, man. Really feeling it.
It's it's fuck. I had a thought in my head and it's disappeared.
I
Fucking
think I
hate
might have
when that happens.
steamrolled it with my.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it back.
Here we
There's a
go.
professor at my college, one of my teachers, who had this amazing way of interacting with the world. And the way I can sum it up best is in my first year, the day before my mid-year exam, my auntie died, and I went in and I said to them, "Look, my auntie's died, so I might fuck this up, but I'm gonna do it." But I just thought I'd let you know beforehand because I can't fuck it up and then afterwards be like, "Yo, that was because." So I just wanted to like address it. And then the next day in lesson after the exam, he was like, "Oh, so your auntie passed away?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he was like, "Oh, what happened?" And I was like, "Oh, she had cancer." And he said, "Oh, was it sudden?" And I was like, "Well, she had cancer for a while. We knew she had cancer for a while, but we thought she had a bit longer. But in the end, it kind of wound up quite quickly." And he just went, "That's amazing." And I was like, "There is something amazing about that. There is something fascinating about that. There is something just intriguing about the way that whole thing works, and something fascinating about death and loss and grief and as artists in particular, I think you have to be able to do that, to see the most painful things in the world as fascinating on some level."
I'm so with you on that, and I guess I'll just throw in on top of it. It's you kind of really want to be pushing experiences. So whether it's pain, whether it's joy, whether it's like, friggin' sadness and depression, or whether it's friggin' addiction, or whether it's whatever it is, like you want to kind of see, like, you want to explore it basically,
Mm,
and you want to like really like dig around and have a good play. And we see it in a lot of, especially like in modern art,
mm,
or just in terms of like art period, like motherfuckers who be painting and sculpting shit. Like, that's what you're really trying to push. Like, especially if you talk about like fine art, you want to really push precision.
yeah,
Like, you want to really push precision. Like, have you seen those peeps who do this shit with pencils and it looks like photos?
yeah,
Like, they
insane,
push it, like push that shit, man. Really push it.
yeah.
And so, like, with this, like, this idea of like of death, or with this idea of death, but yeah, it's like, if you're really willing to like look that shit eye to eye
Mm.
and really push it and like really have a root around, man, you're missing out on like a bunch of stuff, because that's where you start coming up with like breakthroughs, like, gems. That's when you really start to really get to know yourself as well.
Yeah, the other time that happened was when I went through like my only really big breakup. It was around Christmas, and I pretty much didn't eat for 3 weeks. Like my mum would
Ooh,
come in at the end of the every day and just give me like a slice of toast and be like, "You
yeah,
have to eat that," and I was like, "Ugh." And I remember telling my friend about it, and he was like, "Isn't it amazing that you can feel emotions to that level?"
right,
And I was like, "Yeah, it kind of fucking is."
right.
And I think it links back to this pandemic thing where it's like I think everyone, because everything's so fucked and stress levels are so high and stakes are so high, there's an element of that making you just feel a bit more alive than you would do normally. And I have a kind of, I don't really have a, I've never really done the office job thing. I've never done 9 to 5, Monday to
I escaped,
Monday to
like,
Friday.
yeah.
So like, I don't really know. The thought of that makes me want to bash my head against the wall. But like the thought of people being able to escape that. I said this on a previous podcast I did by myself, where I said historically oppressed people come out of oppression very flamboyantly. So people that have been downtrodden, the pressure builds up and builds up and builds up, and then they come out like they
Yep.
explode out of oppression. So if
Yep.
you look at movements like Pride is
Yep.
the perfect
Yep.
example of that, where when you're pushed down and kept quiet, quiet,
Right.
quiet, 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 then you must explode out in this very loud and proud way.
Yep.
Another example is like Spain under a fascist dictatorship, push down, push down, push down, and now big party culture. They swear on the news. Everyone fucking loves it. Fucking mad, and all that stuff. And I think a similar thing will happen with lockdown. I think while I think a lot of comedians will quit, and I'm very very happy about that. I think you'll get a lot of people starting stand up because they've gone. I've just realized how much I hate my day to day life.
Right.
The lockdown was something that I needed to fucking wipe this away. And I've linked it into something else in my brain as well. I'm so clever.
Go for it.
Alfie Alfie
Hey,
Brown
you
tweeted,
better deliver.
it's somebody else's tweet. Alfie Brown tweeted today being like, if this pandemic has proven anything, it's that things can change drastically. So racism must be wiped out. It must be
Mm.
possible if we can change life to this extent so
Mm.
immediately. There must be a
Yep.
way to do the same for prejudice and racism. And I was like,
Totally.
that's fucking great.
We've managed to, and when I say we, I'm just talking about the UK. We've managed to adapt very quickly. And, you know, it's not like an original thought of mine. This is just an obvious observation. We've managed to adapt very quickly, and we've also managed to solve, or at least show that there is a solution to a lot of things that we have been talking about for a long time. And this is one. I thought so. Like on the kind of like negative side of this, I'm very concerned about the. You know, I've not surveyed this. I don't know what the percentages are. I'm concerned that there's too many people in society right now that are a bit too eager to go back to the comforts of what was before.
Yeah.
And I feel like because of that, I feel like there's a large number of people who are missing out on the opportunity that is being presented to them right now. And the people who are going to come out of this the best, they are already in a position where they're already adapting. Essentially, they're not longing for what has gone. They're looking for what is coming ahead. And so there's going to be some motherfuckers who come out of this and they're just going to clean up. Like they're just going to be rocking life. They're going to use this time to like really find themselves. They're going to have gone through something that is like, you know, regardless of whether you think this shit is like some government conspiracy shit, whether you think this is like, you know, natural disaster or the earth, whatever you think this is, it's a fucking real heavy thing. Whatever angle you're chopping it from. If you're staying at home 24 hours a day, or if you going out and you friggin' touching strangers, this whole shit is fucking weird. And the people who are just gonna accept that and they're looking forward, they're already doing the groundwork for what the world is going to be. Not even what the world is going to be like. They're doing the groundwork for what they want their life to be like.
Yeah.
But if you're chilling and you still waiting for McDonald's to open and Nando's to open, and you're just like, I just want to go back to work. Hey man, you're going to be in for a nasty surprise, because one, that world is long gone, and two, man, you're not even almost ready for the shit that's about to come. And everyone who's like gearing up and is like doing some shit, man, we're going to be like flourishing. We're going to be flourishing.
I think yeah, it's the difference between yearning for your old life and yearning for a better life. It's like
Yes.
People love a routine, man. Like you get so many people that talk about in dating preferences. I want a guy with a stable job. Yuck. What do you mean? What does that? You want a guy that's bored? Just bored. A bored man is what you want. And it's like this stability, this obsession with stability, and it's fine if that's what you want and actually honestly want. Great, but if you're only doing that because it's safe and low risk, then I think that's sad. I think that's a shame that you're not fucking swinging for a home run. You only get one go. Do you know what I mean?
Hey, I'm so with you, man. Like I am 100% with you on that. Like if you're alive right now, like you should be aware that what is happening to you is a unique this is some unique mystic shit. Like if you want to normalize the life experience because that makes you feel better and comfortable, cool. But when you're about to die and your eyes are about to close for the last time, I really hope for a lot of people that that's not when they realize that, oh shit, like this was some real dope shit. Like this
Yeah.
was some unique, mystic, cosmic, supernatural. And I'm not even talking about on some like religious or yo, I don't care if you like hardcore atheist or if you like deeply Catholic or deeply religious. Whatever is going on right now, this is some unique mystic shit. And you got to take this shit for a spin, man. Like you got to really like take this thing for a ride. And if you want to do something, like just push it. And it's not easy. No one's saying it's easy,
Hmm.
but damn it, man. Don't let that day come when your eyes are about to close for the last time and you be like, man, I just kind of like, ah, oh, fuck. Like,
Yeah. And even like, have you seen those quotes of Steve Jobs on his deathbed?
I've seen some, but hit me with it because this
So
motherfucker
basically,
wouldn't stop talking, right? He was
he
like,
just
he
yeah,
was like, hey, and write
give
down
it,
this other
dude.
thing. Hey, write down this, yo, Siri, like Siri, this other thing, yo. Like the nurses are like, mate, I can't do another shift with this dude, man. Like, just keep saying some, yo, man. Sorry, go ahead.
But it's so sad. As one of the most financially successful and innovative, like
Yep.
as finances aside, he really fucking broke new ground with a lot of stuff he was part of. He was profoundly sad at the end of his life that he didn't spend it
Mm,
more invested in people and more invested in
mm.
relationships with others. And I think, like, you look at, have you watched Afterlife?
No.
So you look at that, and like a lot of the themes in for Ricky Gervais's character is like, I didn't push myself in my career because I found a woman that made coming home at the end of the day amazing. And that's
Yep.
great. And whatever it is, like if you want whatever you want your focus in life to be, and it doesn't have to be one thing, it's just like I think you have to find just this like just be intrigued as to what you might be able to achieve. It's like what actually could I do if I just
Right.
worked really hard? And the only way I think a lot of people go, "Oh, but I don't have the capability or the potential to do that." The only way to find out is to fucking work real hard and see what happens.
That's it.
And if you put a
That's it.
limit on it, if you go, "I just want a nice stable job and a house and some kids." That's nice, but that's all you're ever going to have because that's what you're aiming for. And when you get there, great, you'll probably get
Yeah.
depression because when
Yeah,
people
and
that
I
environment.
hope that if what someone wants is a nice stable house with like a partner and some kids, like I just really hope that if that's what they want, do that shit to the motherfucking
Yeah,
maximum, man. Like push that shit, please. Like love your family, like really enjoy your time if you're sat in your favorite chair reading a book. Just like like just really do it, like really like do that shit. Like we don't all need to friggin' walk on the moon. We don't all need to play the motherfucking Apollo. Like we all don't need to friggin' write some kind of like, we don't all need to have a smash hit podcast. Like it's, but like if you really, whatever it is that you're doing, just really do that shit. Like really do it. And if
Yeah,
there's things
and
in
I
your
think,
life that you're like you don't really want to do, just maybe just stop doing those things.
yeah, unless they're absolutely necessary to facilitate other things in your life. I don't
There you
particularly like putting subtitles on stand-up videos, but it's
go.
fucking necessary.
Yo, but you love stand up. So I
That's the thing.
imagine
I
I
like reaching
imagine
more people and making more people laugh.
yes.
And I
That's
know
it,
that
man.
80% of Instagram video views are without the sound on. So we put subtitles on the videos, okay, folks? I think another thing that's important that I think is that everyone is creative.
Oh, totally.
Everyone has some kind of artist inside them. Everyone is
Yep.
an artist. I think that's like actually within the kind of Marxist doctrine that everyone has an artistic um and like everyone is an artist and everyone should
Yep.
pursue some kind of art and creativity in their life. And I think no matter what you're doing, if you want to write uh like I'm writing a play at the minute and I
Hey.
don't care where it ends up. All I
Yep.
care about is that it's good. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't
Yep.
matter to me. And that's honestly what I think about stand-up comedy and about the podcast and everything I do. I just want to make it really fucking good. And if I
Yep.
can and I enjoy it, and then
Yep.
I'll take steps to make sure I spend more time doing that. But that's
Yep.
all it'll ever be. It's just me forging a path, and I want
Push
to
it.
make more money so I can hire someone else to do my subtitles for me,
Yep.
so I can perform more, spend more time
Yep.
writing, spend less time on the bullshit and more time. Like you get an accountant, so you can spend less time fucking filling out forms, and you can spend
Yep.
more time doing your fucking art. And it's like I think everyone has the capability to do that. I think everyone there's just this perception within this kind of monetary capitalist society that everything you do has to have a monetary value assigned to it, which just isn't the case. You can just make stuff and it's great.
Like
I think,
just, yeah, do some shit because you wanted to do some shit.
yeah.
Like this, I see it as that simple. As someone who spent most of his life being creative but struggling with the idea of how to embed that into my identity,
Mm.
because I spent a lot of my life thinking that I had to have a proper job, whatever a proper job
Yeah,
means.
yeah, yeah.
And that belief limited it limited my growth.
Mm.
So there's levels that I've kind of like reached now, which I could have exceeded years ago if I
Yeah.
had applied myself some time ago. And I don't mean that kind of like resentfully, because I'm very grateful for everything that I've
You
experienced in
had
the
to go
past.
through it.
Because yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like, it fuels what I create now. But hey man, like every day is a good day to start. Like every day is a good day to start. And you know what? Like probably one of the best days of my life was when I kind of like quit my job, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna like, I didn't have another job to go to. I was like, I quit my job and I'm just gonna spend some time just figuring out what is it that I want to do.
Mm.
Not what is it that I think I should be doing.
Yeah.
And then as those things started to become more apparent to me, it then became more apparent to me that it is my responsibility to see what I can do in those fields and in
Mm.
those realms. So I'm not yet where I want to be, but that's my motivation, is to get there and to explore and to
Yeah.
really push it.
I hope to never be where I want to be.
Exactly. Exactly. What you do once you get there? Then what are you gonna do?
Get depressed. That's what you do. Like that's literally it.
Right?
This is my problem with goals. Like all my goals are so beyond fantastical that I will just never reach
Yes.
them. And they're
Yes.
like they're not even real goals. Like, what's being the best stand-up comedian to ever exist? No one's ever going to definitively be that.
Right.
That's my goal, so I'll never reach it, and I'll never be sad that it wasn't all it cracked up to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. But you'll always keep writing more shit, and you'll always keep trying to improve more shit, and you'll get to what I imagine what will happen, and this happens with a lot of people, is that you might not become the best. Like that's what's dope about the Olympics. Like in the Olympics, it's like, okay, we can settle who's the best. There's like an objective best. Like that motherfucker's the fastest. He threw the stick further than anyone else. This dude can swim
The
like
Olympics
friggin-
is so fucking dumb, isn't it? It's so fucking silly.
yeah,
I threw the thing further than you threw the thing. What?
but you had the wind on your side.
I ran faster than you. Shut up. What's that about?
Hey, these motherfuckers train like, especially like 100-meter sprint. They're trained for like friggin' how many years, and then for like this 10 seconds. And some of them gotta know, like when you're lined up, if you're in the finals, right, for the 100-meter sprint, and you just looking at the other 8 dudes, sometimes before that gun goes off, you're like, look, man, I'll take third. If I come third,
some of them just know they'll never get a medal, and I'm just like, now you're just running fast, but not the fastest. What's the fucking point?
like, yo, man, you know,
No
like,
one's
can you
even
imagine?
watching you? If you come last in the 100-meter final, there's 3 people watching you. It's your mom, your dad, and your auntie. And
Yo, even the camera crew cut. Like the 100 meters is like under 10. It's like they're doing it around 10 seconds, right? And by the time the first person crosses the line, they've already cut the camera.
Yeah.
So like, imagine being lost in the 100-meter sprint and just seeing 7 other motherfuckers that you cannot catch.
Yeah.
Like that view is so depressing. Where you're trying your hardest.
Stupid. The Olympics is just sports day for the world.
Hey, we love it, man. We're just big kids, man. Like we're just big kids. Like we call ourselves adults. We're big kids, and everyone like. Not only is it just sports day for the world, right? Countries are like they start beefing with each other over who gets to host it. Oh no, we think you should all come here for it. No. You should all come here because you should come here because we've got fancy cuisine. So they all argue about that shit, right? Then they all host it, and then it's like we're sending our best, we're sending our fastest, we're sending our strongest. Like they got motherfucking gymnasts doing like interpretive dance, and then there's these grown motherfuckers who sit down who couldn't even do a roly poly, and they're gonna grade. Yo, man, this motherfucker just did like some triple back salt, and some judges like 7.4. Yo, you want to get up? You want to get up and try? What do you mean 7 point? Yeah, he didn't quite stick the land. Yeah, I didn't stick the landing. I spun 19 times in midair off of one leap. Yeah, the landing was pretty tricky, man. Yeah, I'm gonna give that like a. I've seen some twists in my time. That was like about an 8. That wasn't the most impressive. Yo, I just dove off of a 50-foot diving board backwards and splashed in to the freaking water. 8.1.
Perfect. So fucking dumb. I remember one of the first jokes I ever wrote before I ever did stand-up comedy.
Yeah,
it's like the Olympics is just a race, and I was just like, "Oh, that's so fucking clever, Vittorio."
Yeah, we need to start calling some shit what it is, man. All this is, right, is my dad is bigger than your dad. That's all it is, man. And we really get behind, yo, man, like Team GB is going to send like 200 motherfuckers I've never met before in my life, right? And I'm going to really get behind these people, man. I'm really like, do it. This is just I want to feel like I live in the country that is better than the other countries.
It's very human. It's very tribal.
Yeah.
Very to feel part of something. Like I support Celtic Football Club mostly because it allows me to feel part of something in a lifestyle where I don't interact with the same groups of people very often, other than groups of primary school children, and I can't really hang out with them. So it's like it just it allows me to feel like I'm part of a group of people that are all pulling towards the same goal, and because we don't need to catch a fucking saber-toothed tiger anymore, we just throw
Right.
stuff real far.
Right? Like that's when you had that's when you needed to cheer a motherfucker on. Like when you're chasing like a wild hog, yes, send the fastest dude, send the strongest dude. Like that's when you really needed to root behind someone. And that's like we're weird, right, humans, because we've kind of like pushed ourselves to a point where we're denying where we came from. Like we try to make like the Olympics seem so sophisticated. But like with the shit that we do in the Olympics, like when we like if you threw a rock, right, and you cracked a motherfucking deer on the side of its head and then your whole crew got to eat, yeah, like that shit matters. But if you're just throwing a shot put, we pretend that there's some sort of like, you know, look at the technique and look how, no, did it hit the animal on the head and are we gonna eat tonight?
Also, I am the shot put record holder from my school, so
Hey,
I'm a fan of the
you
shot.
would have been real valuable. Like you would have been valuable. You would have been real valuable, like about friggin' 10,000 years ago when we're like, yo, Vittorio, man, like I spotted one. I've
But
got like my spear,
far away.
you know, because I'm black, and you got your fucking, you got your rock, and like there's a bunch of like big-breasted women that if we can bring back some animals, it's gonna be a great night. Like people gonna eat, like, you know, they're like cooking up some stew or whatnot, like, and we're gonna come back with like this thing carried over our shoulder. But like we just do the Olympics like it matters. Like if
Yeah.
before, if you had to like dive into like off a cliff into like some ocean water and, you know, grab some fish or some shit like that, you'd be like, yo, that's my motherfucker. But I feel like nowadays we do it like it's just fun and games, and we're disconnecting it from like our human roots. Like it's like we don't want to acknowledge that, hey man, we're part of this earth. Like,
Well, there is this thing where I think it stems from maybe something similar to the the understanding that anything any other human being is capable of psychologically, you're also capable of. So the worst atrocity that you can think of, that is
yeah,
somewhere within you as well.
yeah.
And this misconception that if I was in Nazi Germany, I would have been fighting against it is statistically almost impossible. There's just almost no way that's true. Like every evil thing that a human being has ever done exists within every human being right now. And I think this kind of, at the minute, particularly this like virtue signaling that exists where people see the holier than thou and the very like, no, you need to listen. And it's like, stop, stop. Look, I was already listening. Like, now's your time to listen, but also can I ask questions? No, don't disrespect me by asking questions, because do your own research. And I'm like, but we're mates. Can I not just like, if you know and I don't know, can I ask? And they're like, no, that's disrespectful. I'm tired of telling you about my lived experience. And I'm like, well, then we can't talk. I can't be like, what did you do on Saturday? Because that's you talking about your fucking
Right.
like, I'm not. I don't know. It's out and about at the minute a lot. Like with surrounding the like George Floyd thing that's going, the riots in
Yep.
America, people are saying,
Yep.
listen, white people, don't come to me looking for me to explain everything about you. Read these books. And I'm like, what?
Yo, man, I know there's some black people that don't like me because of my views on some of these things. Like, because like I hear black people saying they're tired of talking about racism. They don't want to hear what white people got to say like about racism. I'm like, hey, man, first of all, like if you have something that you wish to express, it's your responsibility to express that. If you have some knowledge that you think will help the world, it's your responsibility to express that. If you're tired of expressing that, you're tired of fighting racism. You're fatigued of having conversations that can make the world a better place. That's what's going on there. So I don't really buy all of this shit about, oh, I'm tired of talking about this, or the very second you get tired of it, that fatigue that you have, now you're allowing people to remain ignorant, and the people that you're allowing to remain ignorant are the people who are curious. It's the people that you most need to be talking to. That's exactly who you need to be talking to. The conversations that you're going to leave it feeling a little bit exhausted.
Yeah.
That's the conversation that you need to have, because it's kind of like, it's kind of like ignorant to think that you can engage someone in one conversation and then all of a sudden their whole outlook and life is going to change. If you're talking to an adult, they're at least 18 years old. And we're like you think that the one thing that you've got to say now is going to shift that person's entire view and outlook and way of thinking? That's dumb shit. Second of all, the very second that you start saying things like, I don't want white people talking about this, I don't think white people should have opinion of that, guess what? Now you're being the racist. Now you're exacting the same kind of attitude that was exacted onto you, thinking that that's somehow going to make the situation better. If you're not really rocking with racism, then what you should be trying to do is also look at others as equals to yourself as well. And equals in the sense of, if you're not defining someone by the value, or sorry, you're not defining someone by the color of their skin, everyone's got to have these conversations together. We've all got to talk together. Like, we all need to sit down and listen to what everyone's got to say. And even if you don't like what they've got to say, listen to it, because out of that conversation, you might say one little thing that just allows them to have a new perspective. And that could just be the seed that then grows. Like, I feel like with this kind of like virtue signaling that we're doing, it's like people want to have the impact without putting the work in. Like, they want to just kind of like show which side they're on, but they don't want to actually do the gritty stuff. They don't want to actually like, yo, if you got some motherfuckers, yeah, that like, you're like, I'm tired of like frigging Karen and hate, yo, ask Karen one day if she wants to get a coffee. And be like, yo, Karen, like, let's have a chat, because
that guy, have you seen that guy, Daryl Davis?
yes, he
He's
was
a
a guy that was like
fucking,
visiting like the KKK groups, right?
he's the
And
fucking man. Yeah. There's, to, he is one of the strongest people that has ever lived. If you don't know who Daryl Davis is, fucking read it about it
read a
yourself.
fucking book, man.
I'm sick of telling you who Daryl Davis.
Hey, before you say who Daryl Davis is, actually, like, I just want to like, look, man, if you don't know some shit, like, you can, in the privacy of your own home, you don't even have to read books anymore, man. There's freaking YouTube. There's like, motherfuckers have like cartoonified education. You got the easiest starter pack. Like, friggin' go listen to like, these motherfuckers are guests on like talk shows and friggin' podcasts, and like, okay, sorry, back to you, man, because I'm gonna start getting real heated.
I know what you mean, and it's a tough balance to strike. Where like, I'll explain who Daryl Davis is. Daryl Davis is this guy in America, and he's a piano player, and he's played with some of the greatest musicians America's ever put out. And he basically, through a series of events, he does a TEDx talk, which is 16 minutes long. You should watch it; it's really fantastic. He basically has met dozens and dozens of Ku Klux Klan members, and spoken to them as equals, and had discussions with them, and talked with them, and found some kind of common ground with them, and has convinced something like, is it 40 or 50 people to leave the Klan?
Yo, it might even be like, I think it might even be like a much greater number than that.
I'm gonna double check on my phone, just so we get some kind of number right.
Yeah, please do. And while you check it on your phone as well, it's so important to note that for every individual that you take the time to have that kind of conversation with, to like, and it's not even about correcting people, just express yourself, because just because you believe some shit, that don't mean that it's true or it's correct, but just express yourself as authentically as you can. And out of that authentic expression, you might influence them in a small way. These people live in communities as well. Maybe the conversation that you have with one individual means that later, when someone else makes a remark, they might be influenced by what you said. This is how this shit ripples out, man. Like, this is how positivity and negativity, they both ripple out in the same way. Oh, by the way, I do a podcast called Squeezing the Orange. It's a podcast called Squeezing the Orange, and we've got an episode that's on contagion. And it's all about how behavior influences other people's behavior. And one of the fascinating things that these researchers found is that, like, let's say you and I, Vittorio, are having, like, we're having a conversation right now. What's going to happen is, because of the conversation we're both having right now, there's individuals that are not involved in this conversation who they're going to get the positive effects of this. And not only are they going to get that, but it's, I think it's like to about 3 degrees of separation. How this is how kind of like our positivity and our negativity, this is how it can ripple through society.
Yeah.
So like, it's like the work that Daryl Davis is doing, let's say the number is 50, but that 50 now has a knock-on effect. So it might be a direct number.
This is exactly what it says. He's directly responsible between 40 and 60 clan members leaving,
There we
and
go.
indirectly for over 200.
There you go.
So it's like,
so yeah, you guys tired of talking about racism? Cool, man. But like, that's you gotta need to have an appetite for that shit, man. Like, you really have to have an appetite for. Yeah.
Hard to talk about something that is trauma and is painful to talk about. And I understand that it's really hard. And I also, my experience of something vaguely similar. And this is, do you know what the problem is? Anytime you try and relate it back to your own understanding of something, people shut you down because stop equating yourself to this. It's like, I'm trying to empathize. I'm doing exactly what you want me to do. Stop telling me I'm doing it wrong. I understand that it's different, but you have to understand that this is wholly positive. I remember once I was having a discussion with a girl about like just sexism and kind of like, and gendered bathrooms and how she would feel if men were in the same bathroom as her, and I was like, yeah, man, I understand. That must be really awful. And she went, no, you can never understand. And I was like, okay, I mean, I'm on your side. Like, why are you shouting at me for saying I understand? That must be really hard for you. I'm not saying, oh yes, I know exactly what that feels like. Like, I'm a grown up, I'm intelligent, I can empathize with what you're going through, even though I haven't gone through the exact same thing. And my experience is like, I am well aware that the British school system does not teach English people about colonialism and does not teach any aspect of Britain's history in Ireland and the atrocities committed in Ireland. I am very well aware of that. They also don't teach them about the inbuilt stereotyping and prejudice that is within English people about Irish people, within the culture, within the media, within literal like newspapers from the 70s and 80s. You can see it. There were like Irish people are cartoonized within English newspapers as monkeys and chimpanzees and all and dehumanized. Yeah, 100%. So it's like there's one where it's this guy. It's like a picture of a gorilla, and he's sat at a desk of a pub, and he's like drunk and trying to work through these papers, and the thing on the little name tag on the desk says G Orilla, like fucking like Orilla, like fucking Irish. And I understand that it is very, very frustrating when something that affects you very deeply, the people you're speaking to don't have an education in it. I understand what that is like. And a lot of people will say, no, you don't understand to the same degree. I agree. I don't understand to the same degree. But I understand what that feels like. And I can amplify that in my imagination and go, yeah, if I struggle with that, holy fuck, it must be really hard. And I think it's profoundly negative to tell someone that, no, you don't understand. I think that's just all you're doing when you say you're a racist, you're unsalvageable, you're an idiot, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about, you'll never understand, you'll never. All you're doing is pushing that person as far to the other side of the argument as you possibly can, because you're not giving them any room to connect with you on any level whatsoever.
I think in addition to that as well, I think what individuals are also doing is they're highlighting their ineptitude. Is that the right word? They're highlighting their their poor ability to communicate and express themselves and to bring about the change that they wish to see. If you're having a conversation with someone who does not seem to be understanding or empathizing or getting it, it's solely your responsibility to
Yeah.
communicate to them in a way that you believe that they will be able to better understand what it is that you believe they are not understanding. That's not on them, that's on you. And some people, they're not trying to have their minds changed. Some people are stuck in their ways. And in a sense, it's your ability, your kind of responsibility to have a bit of an appetite for that. Sometimes
Yeah.
you do need to just like leave people, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna call it a day.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, the very minute where you're a bit like, I'm tired of it, someone doesn't, if you believe someone doesn't understand, give them something. Don't just tell them, yo, you're thick, or you're like, you'll never get it. No, give them something else.
Yeah.
Give them something else, even if that something else is a question, even if it's a different, perspective, even if it's like, yo, and let me add, let me share this with you, let me. But like the very second where you're just like, I'm gonna leave it, that's now you've had an opportunity to change, to bring about the very change that you wish to see. That's your opportunity right there. And you're now using it as an opportunity to push away the very people that you wish to kind of like accept you. It's it's difficult. And like you say, like, I kind of like, I do get the frustration and the fatigue, but when I kind of make myself more aware of that, it gives me the appetite. Like, because I'm a bit
Mm.
like you, when if you want to talk about some shit that's difficult, yo, like canceling racism. These motherfuckers want to cancel Weatherspoon, they want to cancel Starbucks, they want to, yo, that's like, firstly, you're gonna get your freaking pumpkin spice latte come Halloween. So like, stop with all of this fake I'm canceling H&M
Yeah.
shit. Put your effort into canceling racism. Like, put that's some shit that like we can all agree, yo, let's put some effort into that shit. And when all of these companies and corporations and celebrities are being freaking like behaving like kids, let that shit go, man. That's like you only need to send one or two tweets, man. But they're like put your effort, like that's where you want to channel it, like channel it towards some shit that really matters to you, man. I don't care if H&M put a black kid in like a friggin' monkey, a t-shirt that had like a monkey in it. Look, man, I'm a see that shit and watch everyone angry online, and then guess what, when I need to get a cheap t-shirt, I'm gonna go buy that cheap t-shirt from H&M. So that's not really my fight to fight. And also, that shit's open to interpretation. I don't see black people as monkeys. So if I see a kid wearing a t-shirt that says cheeky little monkey, I'm not thinking that's a representation of black people. I'm thinking that's a monkey. That's a cute phrase. But if we're talking about some real racism shit, if we're talking about it on the real level, whether it's subtle or whether it's extreme, that's the hard shit. And so I just don't really have time for all of this virtue signaling, friggin' hashtagging. Like, when you people are ready to have some real hard conversations, that's when you'll find me. Like, I'm so over it, man. So over it. Like, speaking of like the George Floyd situation, I woke up, logged onto Twitter, ready to start posting some real ignorant shit and just having fun on my day. And I'm like, oh shit, Twitter's really mad. When have I seen this before? The last time this kind of shit happened.
Yeah.
Man, in less than 12 hours, Twitter went from, man, in less than 12 hours, they're like, oh man, there's like a spaceship going up into the thing. Or, oh man, like Dominic. I'm like, can you guys just stop pretending that you like, it's so transparent, man.
Yeah.
So
I think
transparent, and
it
it just
has activated people. I feel activated by it. I feel more of a surge of energy towards being outspoken and like braver with it.
mm,
I think as comedians it's difficult, especially newer comedians as we are, because comedy's a fucking long old art form.
mm,
It's hard to feel like you can express the complexities of structural racism in a
yeah,
comedic fashion.
Yeah.
because we don't really have the tool belt to do that yet. Um, but I think, I mean, I've been on this for ages now that I am consciously trying to forge a path where not everything I put out has to be comedy,
Perfect.
because I think that limits you as a person quite severely,
Mm-hmm.
and not in a positive way. Like, obviously, if you're a comedian, when you're doing your comedy shit, like, do your comedy shit, but you have to be able to have a sincere point of view, and as you get better at comedy, you can weave some of those more sincere points of view into your comedy.
Yep.
But I think a lot of people feel a bit trapped by their comedy, and I think we spoke about this briefly before, where I don't know if it is the case, but I think because of some of the conversations that are happening, and because of some people saying, white people, it's your time to listen and your time
Mm.
to amplify black voices. Two things
Mm-hmm.
about that. Number one, what's a black voice? Like, what is this unified voice that all black people agree on? Like you said, for some of your points of view, other black people will get upset about you. Guess what? Black people are fucking people that disagree on
Right.
things. They're not a unified organization. It's just a fucking skin color. And
Yep.
that is not to downplay the lived experience of any person, but the way to look at it is it's just a fucking skin color. It doesn't
It
make you
actually.
different than me, and it doesn't make you all the same, because that's a
Yep.
racist idea to think that
Exactly.
all black people are the same.
Exactly. And I want to kind of like, because you did actually like uh prompt something in me that I want to kind of like clarify. I feel like it's very beneficial on platforms like Twitter to like, yeah, I want to, yeah, you know what? Like, let me really refine this actually. It's very useful on platforms like Twitter to express what it is that you stand for.
Mm.
And because, there's a large audience on there, and some people really do need that 6 hours of the day where every time they go online they're saying, yo, everyone actually really. So you know what, I do need to correct myself actually. Like it, there is a value to it, there is a solid
Mm.
value. And I think my issue seems to be that we need to lift that value off of social media. Like,
Yes.
social media needs to be like the kind of like the catapult
Mm-hmm.
where we get people charged up on social media, like, where the people are, whether it's social media, whether it's the pubs that have been closed for the last, however, wherever it is the people are, we need to get them charged up. But there needs to be like an action that comes after that.
That
And that
was.
action is like, like you say, the action sometimes is people being bold enough now to be able to actually like confidently stand up and speak. And we need to, and I'm kind of like trying to stitch together,
Mm.
like quite a few thoughts here. We need to kind of really unify like this whole, like the minute we start, we need to realize that yes, black people may, not even may, yes, black people are negatively impacted by racism. And it's not just black people, it's every race is negatively impacted by racism, whether you're on the receiving end of it. Like, do you know how uncomfortable it is to like observe someone being mistreated?
Mm.
Even if it's not racism, like that's uncomfortable. Like, unless you don't care about other motherfuckers, if you see someone going through something, even if you see like, a great example might be, especially for Londoners, if you see someone with like their buggy and they're struggling to get up or down a flight of stairs, like that's uncomfortable to like watch. You want to get involved, and it doesn't matter what color the baby in the buggy is or what color the person pushing the thing is. You're just like, no, I want to help someone out. So like, we need to realize that racism is everyone's problem.
Mm.
Society suffers because of racism. We can't be pushing people outside of conversations when it comes to racism and sexism, because we all got a race, we all got a sex. And your sex might not be male or female, your sex might be, but we all identify as something in them regards. So we all get impacted by this shit. when they start talking about, you know, like male and female toilets and unisex, this involves all of us. Like racism is everyone's concern, whether you're racist or not racist. We all getting impacted by it. So if you're down for like canceling racism, yo, the best way to do that, everyone needs to huddle up together. We all got to huddle up together and have conversations about it. This isn't black people's problem. Racism happens to people from like, it's not just black people that experience this, like, and it's not just black people that are affected by it. And the more we start infighting and telling other people like, yo, you shut up or you be quiet, or we're creating the division that we're trying to erase.
Yeah, you're emphasizing the thing that you're trying to.
Sorry, I just
No,
in my
that was
belly,
great.
man.
Yeah, this really tricky thing, and I always use the same example for it, where this really tricky thing where someone else's problems being worse than yours doesn't invalidate your problems.
Yep.
There are charities for donkey sanctuaries, and I don't give a fuck about donkeys. But they're struggling. Do you know what I mean? They're probably not struggling to the same level as some other charities like UNICEF, but the donkeys are struggling as well, and they're still valid. It's
Hey,
still a
man,
valid cause.
I see these donkeys in these adverts, right? These donkey carrying like fucking 80 kilos. This motherfucker's skinny. And I'm like, hey, that's a rough life, but guess what? You ain't getting my £2 a month, man. I'm sorry. Yo, though, that shit, like donkeys never look happy anyway. But you ever seen a mistreated donkey?
Do you think that Winnie the Pooh has contributed to a societal discrediting of the donkey struggle?
Winnie the Pooh's about his honey, man. He don't
No,
care
but
who got. Winnie Pooh don't get. That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Winnie the Pooh's about his honey. He don't care who got to suffer as long as he gets his honey. Winnie the Pooh ain't like, yo, man. Yeah, like Eeyore been suffering every episode. This motherfucker is like, it's not even like a quiet cry for help. This motherfucker's like, one of these days, I'm gonna kill myself. And Winnie the Pooh's like, hey man, where can I get some honey? Like, like, I'm trying to eat. Like, freaking Eeyore's literally got the fucking, Eeyore's like right beside like a freaking, you find Eeyore passed out with like freaking pills scattered all over the floor, man. And Winnie the Pooh's like, oh my God, this shit again? This shit? Okay, someone like freaking pump his stomach. And then after that, man, anyone fancy some honey? Who's up for just a little dab? Let me just get like... But yo, I feel for donkeys. Like I watch the adverts and I'm a bit like, man, that's fucking rough, man.
Yeah.
But you ain't getting my £2.
So. This is the thing. So it's everyone's struggle is valid, and it's not as bad as everyone else, and it's not a fucking league table. This is a problem I have with people talking about comedy, where they say punch up, and I'm like, what's up?
Oh boy. Oh
what's
man.
Up?
Yo, I had a few conversations with people about this very thing, and I posted something on Facebook, and it was me trying to express how I have this difficulty understanding punching up and punching down. All of the replies were people just talking about punching down, and I must not have communicated properly what it was that I was trying to say. But what I was trying to say is this idea of punching up, you're indirectly saying these people are better than me and they hold a better standard. But what value are you putting that says that that person is worth more? And in the way that you say you can't punch down, are you now saying that these individuals are lesser? Anyway, I'm gonna let you kind of rock with it because you're about to intro your shit. But this is some juicy convo.
But it's like, it's like, what about them being structurally oppressed means that they can't take a joke?
Yep.
Because I'll make fun of anyone and everything for everything, because I think one of the most kind things you can do to a person is to make fun of them. if it's done in the right way.
It's
One of
to
the most
rip the shit
respectful
out
things
of
you
them.
can do. Honestly,
I'm
you
with you.
have
That's how we treat
because
our friends. That's
it's
how I do, at least.
yeah, you're embracing them.
Yep.
I hate the feeling of having to tiptoe around someone and be like, oh, I can't mention that. I can't mention that. I can't. Like, have you ever? I remember I've a mate of mine whose dad is like a famous actor, and he's known for playing like hard men. And I won't say who he is or whatever.
Ray Winston.
No. But he like jokingly like squared up to me one time, and I was like, "Oh, you're
What, the
acting
dad?
like your dad." No, the fucking my mate.
Oh, your mate did.
And
Okay.
I was like, "Oh, you're acting like your dad," and he was like, "Yo, don't do that. Like, don't equate me to whatever." And I'm like, "Am I not allowed to talk about the fact that you've got a famous dad? Like, what's going on here? Like, am I hate being like, I'm not allowed to mention that you're black. Am I not allowed to mention that you're black? Are we just not talking about you're black, I'm white, I'm Irish, you're Nigerian? Are we not allowed to talk about this? Like, we share a lot of colors. It's green and white. We love those. Like,
This is what's weird, right? This is why I feel like we're at like a real confused place as a society. We're real confused as society because on the one hand, we're saying that we want to see more representation on, in these offices. We want to see more representation on like the TV screen. We want to see more representation. And then at the same time, we're saying we don't want to acknowledge that people are from different countries and of different. It's just this real confusing kind of like, it's weird, man.
we said it before we started. Diversity is so beautiful.
Right?
Why the fuck would you not talk about how we're
Right?
different? That's what makes it so special.
Right?
That's what, like, I grew up in a place in Belfast where it's a very divided community. And had I not played music, specifically classical music and rugby, I probably would not have met a Protestant through my entire childhood. But in those circles of rugby where in a team of 30, there was 4 Catholics. And classical music, very mixed, kind of Catholic, Protestant, all sorts of things. In those circles where everyone's together, in one of the most recently violently divided cultures available in the world, all we did was take the piss out of each other and talk about the fact that we're different and the funny shit each different culture does. That's all we do. Right. It's called sectarian banter. That's what we do. And it's weird to me because that's where I come from, a place of sectarian banter, to come in and have people go, you can't make jokes about race, you're a white guy. And I go, but it exists, and I can talk. It's like,
and it's
racial
funny.
Banter, if done in a respectful and kind and compassionate way, has to be allowed. And you have to, if someone is showing care and attention, and it comes back to this thing of being intrigued by someone else's culture, and finding the fun in that. It has to be okay. I'm intrigued by the fact that Protestants keep their toaster in the cupboard. That is
Wait, what?
Mental.
Dude, this
Protestants
is news
in Northern
to me,
Ireland,
man.
when they finish using their toaster, they unplug it and they put it in a cupboard. Ludicrous.
Yo, that's weird, man.
Ludicrous. Okay.
I can see why you guys don't get along, because that's odd behavior, man. Like if I was on, like, let's say like the first time I made it back to like a babe's place, right? And I stick around for breakfast the next morning because I'm trying to replenish, if you know what I'm saying, right? So like if she pulls the toaster out of the cupboard, I'm already a bit like, well, I'm never coming back here again. But since I'm here, I'm still going to eat. But then when I watch her put it back in, I might not say anything. You know what's going to be weird as well? She's going to be like, oh man, like, I met this really nice dude. He's tall, dark, handsome, funny. His Twitter is at Akin Omobitan. His Instagram is at Akin Omobitan. He also happens to do a YouTube channel, which is new, called You Tell Me. He has a podcast called Squeezing the Orange. This guy is fascinating. He's breaking barriers, man. And we fucked, and now he just won't call me back, and I don't know why. It's because you put the toaster in the oven, bitch. And I'm not trying to get murdered in my sleep. Oh, in the where I don't care where she put it, man. Just leave it outside.
Leave it on the counter, you psychopath. This is the thing. As I've moved to London, I've had so many mad experiences of people from different cultures and different backgrounds. All I ever want to do is poke fun at it. And it's great because I'm welcoming you into my world and my conversation, and I'm not afraid to talk about who you are and where you come from. I hate being afraid of talking to people about everything. Yep. I want everything to be on the table. And people want to take that away.
Yeah, it's like the most interesting thing. And I think this, like when I was saying how like there's some black peeps who'd be like, yo, Akin, chill, man. You're not helping. Hey, I'm trying to help, man. When people say they get frustrated with someone asking them where they're from and they got an attitude about it, I'm a bit like, that is your opportunity to celebrate your background. It's your opportunity, the very thing that you're so proud about and that you wish society would accept. This is your opportunity to talk about it. When someone asks you where you are from, when someone asks you about your hair, when someone asks you about the food that you are eating, when someone asks you about the music that you are listening to, when someone asks you anything that has to do with your culture, your race, that is the perfect opportunity to celebrate and educate someone on what it is that you are so proud of. And if you're not willing to do that, you need to check yourself, because there just might be something about you yourself that you don't like.
It's a big
because for me personally,
whole, like, where are you from thing, and people get very, very upset about it.
Look, I don't even give a fuck if someone said, where are you from? I'm gonna tell you, this is my opportunity now. You've given me the stage. I'm gonna tell you, like, yo, I was born in Nigeria. I was raised in London. I mean, my parents are this. That is the opportunity. That's the thing that lets people really understand who you are. And if you're going to get offended by someone showing curiosity and interest in you, you need to check yourself. You need to really check yourself, because there just might be something. Say what?
Do you know that happened to me once?
Hit me with it, man.
On the tube was like, where are you from? And I was like, Ireland. And he's like, no, where are you from? And I was like, I'm half Italian. And he went, there we go. I was like, what?
Yeah, man. I love weird motherfuckers, man. Like, anytime some weird shit happens, I'm like, oh, now we're talking. Let's really, like, friggin', let's see what's up. Like, let's get weird. Like, oh my days. But yeah, it's I just try to see shit as opportunities, man. Like, where some others see threats, I see it as it's an opportunity.
There's a to kind of, I think it links where we were talking about, like, you're just Akin. You don't speak. There is not one unified opinion of black people.
It ain't me.
Yeah, well, black people aren't a unified voice.
Yes.
On everything. They don't have the same opinions on everything.
Yep.
And to assume so is racist.
Right.
Like, everyone's complex, and this kind of, but this idea of, like, amplify black voices is like, which ones? Because I could retweet 2 different black people saying the opposite thing about the riots.
Right.
And what have I done? I'm amplifying black voices, but which ones are right? Who's being the more thoughtful? Who's, like, you look at someone like, have you read someone called Chloe Valdery?
No.
She's interesting. So I have issues with her.
Personally, or is this
Politically, she's pro-Israel, and I'm like,
okay?
you probably shouldn't do that. And
Wait, so does
then
that make you anti-Israel?
I'm Northern
Ooh.
Ireland Catholics are very aligned with Palestine.
Okay.
Generally, I don't claim to know a whole bunch about it, but the general feeling that I get is that and from what I've read, there's a lot of parallels with kind of Israel, almost like it's almost like an apartheid and like almost like a colonial approach to this. We own this land and we own you and this kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And there's a thing that I wanted to come to with the rioting thing as well, where coming from Belfast and coming from the Catholic side of things on Belfast, I often get a lot of questions about the IRA and things like that. And I make jokes about it a lot. Like, I will say up the Ra at any given occasion, just
By the
because.
way, listeners, we're talking about the Irish Rugby Association, just in case you were wondering what the IRA was. Just sorry, I apologize for interrupting. Do carry on.
um, and there's this thing of like, anytime I say the British Army did this in Northern Ireland, people go, yeah, but the IRA did this. And I go, yeah, the IRA, with no centralized organization and no, it's not a government, it's freedom fighters, it's a rebellion. You cannot hold the rebellion to the same standards as the government with a huge budget using people's taxes to oppress people. You can't hold those things to the same standard. These are just random people doing things because they are tired of the status quo. The
Yep.
government is a coordinated, planned regime implemented by the more powerful entity. And this thing of like, I tried to make a joke about it, and it's not there yet, but it's like people getting annoyed at the protesters looting is like a football referee two-footing Sadio Mane and then sending him off for dissent afterwards. It's like, you can't murder someone and go, whoa, you can't break a window. You can't break windows. And it's like, people have died. That's what sparked this. People were murdered. That's what sparked this. And everyone's going, but property. You can't destroy property. That's what we all need and exist on. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this like violent protest versus peaceful protest versus what is acceptable and what is useful at times such as these.
Yo, so yeah, with this current situation, it's as with everything, heavily complicated,
Yeah.
heavily complicated. So my kind of like high level kind of like take on this is, if what it is that you're, it's like, okay, let me kind of like back it up a bit. I feel like what people need to do is they need to, that this anger that they're feeling, they need to apply it toward, like, furiously read a book, like furiously understand how politics works, because what you're trying to do is change a system. And if you don't have knowledge on how the system operates, yo, you can burn like one building, you can burn 15 buildings, you can burn 50 buildings. Guess what? The same system that you're angry about, that same government is now going to pay contractors who are now going to make money rebuilding all of this shit. And all of that anger that you put into throwing shit and burning shit and fighting, all of that anger is going to subside. And once it subsides, people are going to get back to their This happens all of the time. They'll be angry for like a day, a week, a month. But the people that stay angry, are the ones who now start to understand. They put effort into understanding how the system works. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the actual system. So a lot of the times, like these protests, I get it, but if you have like, let's say what, 10,000 people at a protest, if you could equip 10,000 people with knowledge and influence them in terms of how voting works, how laws are passed, if you can get those 10K people to say, okay, how do we set up some sort of independent body that investigates police crime on civilians, where we build that. Governments are supposed to do the work of the people. That's what we put them in place to do. So if they're not doing what it is that we want them to do, we need to establish bodies that will do that. That's what needs to happen. We need to say, okay, then the judicial system, let's say in America, because that's where this thing's taking place, they're not doing a good job of prosecuting police officers who are enacting violence against people. And I don't care if that police officer is black, white, or whatever. If a police officer is doing what we believe to be a crime against a civilian, regardless of that civilian's race, there needs to be a system in place which holds the officers accountable for their actions, for their behavior. So when we start flipping cars and we start throwing petrol bombs and we start smashing windows, all of that anger, we're just pouring it into that act. And what's going to happen, and mark my words, before 2020 is done, a police officer is going to murder someone else. This shit, like we hear the stories that the media put in front of our face. This story that we're hearing now is not unique. It's not like, it's not like this is the first one that's happened since the last one we were angry about. It's happening to black people, it's happening to white people, and it's happening to all of the colors in between. And so when the media puts it in our face and they whip us up, we need to get whipped up into a fuss where we're a bit like, okay, now, are you angry enough to like join a group, to join a cause? Are you angry enough to like to vote? Are you angry enough to learn? Are you angry enough to like to become a politician? Like, and I don't mean in terms of like an MP or a prime. Are you angry enough to think, okay, then maybe I want my career to be in something that helps the people? Like, are you that angry? Or are you just angry enough to attach a hashtag at the end of a tweet? That's what I meant earlier when I said I was fed up of this kind of like virtue signaling, because it's real easy to be sat on your sofa, drinking your squash, and then pause whatever it is that you're watching on Netflix to now fire off a tweet and be a bit like rah, 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 rah. But are you actually angry enough to bring about the change that you want to see? So people are going to smash things. They're going to riot. They're going to loot. And quite likely at some point, it's going to simmer down. Quite likely. There'll be some celebrity is going to do some dumb shit, and then we're all going to be a bit like, oh my God, now I'm just angry and I want to cancel like Louis C.K. Rah, 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 rah. And then we're all going to just chill and we're going to get back to our lives. And then all of that anger that you felt, all of that emotion, all of that is just for nothing until give it a few more months. And then the media are going to say, look, it happened again. And then this cycle, we're continuing this cycle, and who is benefiting from it? So yeah, that's my righteous rant on that regard.
Do you think this one feels slightly different? Because to me, this one feels slightly different. The levels of the activism and the protests.
It definitely does feel different. It definitely feels different. This feels very different, and there's a part of me that does very much like how angry people are getting. There's a part of me that does like that it's really starting to hit people in like the chest and in the gut. But for most of us, realistically speaking, that's going to be a feeling, and that feeling is going to pass for most of us. For the majority, there's people who the feeling has passed already, and that opportunity is now gone, and the opportunity is going to be gone until it happens again. We need to, if you're really upset, if you're really angry, is more about bringing about the change. And we can't rely on, like, it's like we're begging the same politicians and the same judges that have let us down so many times before. We're begging them to change the thing that we should be changing ourselves. We appointed them to do our bidding. A lot of people look to politicians like, oh, lead us, tell us, give us. No, we're supposed to tell them. We're supposed to say, yo, this is what we want society to look like. Now do your fucking job. That's what it's supposed to be. But there's been a flip where they've done some fucking voodoo magic shit, right? And they flipped it where they're like, we're going to tell you. And you now have to choose between the limited options that we give you. You have to accept a reality that you do not wish to live in. And it's because peeps are real comfortable, man. That's the truth of it. Most people are... Sorry, go ahead.
I heard on a podcast a couple of
I
times.
got a dip in a few minutes as well, by the way.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. That in America, and I think it could apply in the UK as well, that black people have, by their vote, automatically going to the Democrat Party no matter what.
Yep.
Their vote is no longer valuable and marketable to the politicians. If you want the politicians to create policy specifically for your community has to threaten to vote for the other side. And that's
precisely.
That's how that works.
Precisely. And so all of this, and if we just use the UK as an example, all of this talk about like, yo, I'm Labour no matter what. I'm conservative no matter what. I'm liberal Democrat no matter what. That's dumb shit, man. Like, you tell people what you want. Tell them what you want society to look like and be like, that's whoever's going to get me to the closest version of this, that's who I'm voting for. But what we do is weird, man. We let them tell us what they're offering us. And some of us are like, we don't even care what's being offered. We're just like, no, I'm just going to vote this. Look, man, if that was me, if I was a politician, why would I even listen to the people? If you're telling me that you're going to do whatever you want to do anyway, why would I even listen? I'll just be a bit like, okay, so look, here's like 6 things, man. We'll see you guys on like the 8th when it's time to vote. But like, we need to stop listening to what they are telling us. When they're campaigning, we are supposed to be campaigning. We're supposed to, the same way that they're saying, okay, this is what we're offering, we're supposed to be saying, yo, this is what we want. But there's like 60 million of us here in the UK. And like, we can't even agree like motherfucking, whether it's jam or friggin' cream first on a fucking scone. Who gives a fuck, man? Just eat the fucking scone, man. Eat the fucking scone. I don't care which order you put the friggin' jam and the cream on. But like, when it comes to like some real shit, then we all just sit down and we watch BBC Question Time and we friggin' watch them put shit. They're still crying about fucking 350 million on a bus. Yo, they just put that number out there because they're like, look, man, you didn't ask us how much you wanted us to do for the NHS. You just said, oh, so what, like, we've got to tell them. And that's it with the black vote in America. And, you know, there's people who have tried to express that and then they get told that they're not black enough. Like Candace Owens, Kanye West. Like there's individuals who are a bit like, no, you tell me to vote for what my interests are aligned with. And I think when like you start looking at it that way, you go into any election as a constituent or whatever it is, as a voter, you go into any election and it's your responsibility to educate yourself on what everyone is offering, and then you put your vote in the place that's best suited for you. And you go to these politicians. This is what's weird, right? These politicians will like come to local areas and they'll be like, hey, they'll be knocking on doors trying to talk to people, and people are like, I ain't got time to talk to no politician. That's your opportunity to say, yo, this is what I would like to see in the local area. This is what the problems are in the local area. You got like politicians that are like, you know, people that really care, that are on the ground, and they're going door to door trying to have conversations with people. And I've seen like, you know, the footage of it, and they're like, yo, man, people don't want to talk to us. So well, how can you expect the politician to represent you when you don't want to tell the politician what it is that you want from them? Oh man, this shit like kind of like it gets me a bit like amped up, because I just hear when the results come out, that's when people start complaining that they never got what they wanted, but they never look, updating your Facebook post, that's not going to change the society that you live in. I'm sorry if that's like hard news for you.
That's the fucking
right. Like, get involved. All of these billionaires, they're heavily involved.
Yeah.
they're involved.
And
They're like, yo,
that's a separate discussion about
it's separate, but
how much grassroots change we can make when the lobbyists have so much fucking money being pumped into politics.
they've got money, right? But like, you can have like $1 billion, you can have like 10 billion, but if the actual people say, yo, this is where we're voting, or this is what we want, or we're either not voting or we're not engaged, like, that would change more than money. And this is like, goes back to the point that we were making about when you start putting like a monetary value on what someone has in society as opposed to their actual character and content. We fucked up already from like that point. But like, if you're not willing to engage and have conversations with politics and with, like, you know, like from the local level, then just like chill the fuck out, man. Don't get angry then. Just chill. If it doesn't go your way and you don't get what you want, just chill. Because what did you really do to influence it then? And if everyone knows what they did when it was like, there's motherfuckers who were like, they voted on, like, you know, on the Brexit thing, and they were just told, oh, people who want to leave or remain, so I'm gonna vote remain. But you don't even understand what remain is. Like, learn about both of them. Oh, people who vote Tory are cunts. It's like, but do you even know like what? Oh, like, I'm going to stick with Labour because, like, no, like, understand what Labour are trying to offer you. Understand what Remain is trying to. Man, I need to chill out. But basically, it's like, get involved, educate yourself, become influential. That's about it, really. And if you're not doing any of those three things, chill. Just don't get that wound up. Then, be easy. Like, you didn't care then. Why'd you care now?
Yeah, you have the capability to actually make a change. Don't.
Yeah.
And then there are discussions to be had about how much change people can make, how much political action can be taken, and how much peaceful action can be taken before violence is the only option left. That's the thing with the IRA. When the IRA's, the civil rights movement in Northern Ireland started as peaceful marches that were met with bullets. So when your marches are met with bullets and when the voting system is rigged against Catholics and Republican interests, then that's the point where you have to make yourself heard by other means or
Yes.
political means.
Yeah.
And I think that's the argument in America at the minute, but it has to be done on both fronts. It has to be, I would like to say that they'll successfully tear down the whole system and build a utopia from the ground up, but I don't think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think you have to change the system from within the system. And if the way for the system to be able to hear you, the proof's in the pudding. That guy only got taken into custody because shit went mad. And
Yeah.
the other thing with
Yeah.
violent protests, and I've seen this in London when the Tories got voted in and I went and protested, there are people sent into protests to cause violence, to discredit the movement that the protest is for. And police will start violence to discredit the movement and get less people involved in the movement, so less marches happen in future.
Yep.
So it's so complex. Of protest is a key part of politics, and
Yeah.
violence is sometimes the only voice given to downtrodden groups and depoliticized groups. Violence is the only option to have your voice heard, but after the violence has to come political activism. After the
Precisely.
violence has gotten
Yep.
people's attention, you have to tell them what you want to happen.
Exactly. And all too often I've seen the violence and not necessarily the change that has come after it. But like, you asked me about, does this time feel different? One of the things that I do like about this time that I have seen on social media is people are using social media lots in a more intelligent way now, where, like, we're not always going to see the real version of what is going on. Like, a lot of these like news channels, they're on one way or another, they're part of the machine. They've got their own agenda, and we now have literal devices where we can start to actually share with each other what is actually going on. And that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed this time around. Is, I don't know what's like everyone's Twitter feed is like, but like on my, I've seen people who are live and they're there and they're doing the reporting We don't need to wait for these news outlets to tell
Mm.
us what is going on. If you're there, get your phone out, record some shit, and post that shit. And it's not about retweets, likes. It's just make sure you just do your bit. If you see something that's off or report it, in the sense of like, get your phone out, video that shit, and put that shit online. And I've seen footage where they're making it seem like the news headlines are like, oh, the rioting and then people are being a bit like, well, here's where I'm at, and here's what a peaceful protest looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, black people doing it. Well, here's where I'm at, and this person kind of looks a bit fishy. All of the smashing, and so it's like we've got that power, and that's one of the things. I think it was talked about, maybe like the Arab Spring, maybe. I can't remember which uprising it was, where they used the people used social media to really show the rest of the world what was really happening.
Mm.
And it made the movement a lot more impactful, and that's another good thing that I'm really seeing this time around that is different, where we're not only hearing what the news outlets are telling us,
Yeah, the
but
mainstream media doesn't have to control the narrative anymore.
exactly, we're talking to each other, and that's where there's a lot of power now. And the media outlets are going to brick it, the politicians are going to brick it, because that's a real problem for them, when we're actually talking to one another. And we've now got an influence where it doesn't need to be backed by some logo or some news company. One individual can share something, and that thing has got the power to now get like the attention of tens or hundreds of thousands of people, and they can see a different perspective. And when you have like a more broader perspective of what's going on, your narrative now becomes a bit more refined in terms of, in quote marks, the truth. Wait, were we supposed to be doing jokes the last couple hours? Because
Absolutely not.
because
Absolutely not. It's good though.
oh shit.
Good though, I think. Good episode.
Oh man, this is like, if I didn't have like, I'm supposed to be like an artist and whatnot, but if I didn't have like dinner waiting, like my girlfriend's been cooking up, so I feel a bit bad, kind of like like
No,
leaving it hanging.
I think that's a no.
Um,
I think that's a good. I think we've at the very least sparked a discussion, and there is my Conti podcast listenership will sometimes see it to our episode and go, "Oh, for fuck's sakes," and won't listen to it. But if you've made it this far, fuck you as well.
fuck you especially, man. Like, you the real fuckers. Like, oh shit.
That was cool, man. I'm gonna hit stop recording and then I'll add the intro and outro. But we'll have another chat after we stop recording. And that was Akin Omobitan. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Thank you so much for persevering with the podcast. You're fucking great. I love you to bits. Once again, if you've made it this far, I would say you've enjoyed it. I'd say you've got some value from it. Share it with your friends. Post it wherever you can post it. Like it. Subscribe to it. Give it a rating. Give it 5 stars. Give it a comment if you like it. If you didn't like it, send me a message. Say, this is what I didn't like about this. I would like to hear more opinions of these type of people. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone on this podcast, and I'm almost more inclined to have conversations with people that I disagree with. And I think me and Akin slightly disagreed on certain things and had slightly different viewpoints on things, but we allowed each other to talk through it and go and just question each other and prod each other. And I'll definitely do another episode with Akin in the future because I thought it was really good. I hope you enjoyed, and if you really enjoyed, jump on the patreon.com/Vittorio Angelone, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope you're having a wonderful week. You're fucking great. I really appreciate everyone who listens to this podcast, especially the whole way through. You're absolute legends. My heart is yours. I love you. Look after each other. Stay safe. Up the fucking good, guys.